What's the one law of nature that every society ignores at its own peril? That I will discuss today. Welcome to Philosophy of Action. Today, I'd like to clarify and further explain the three core values that any philosophy of action, in fact, any philosophy of life itself must have in order to exist, to perpetuate, and to become great. These three values are to have descendants, to survive in order to have descendants, and to thrive, to become greater than yourself, to expand, to achieve more, and to pass on more than just basic existence. These together are effectively a form of natural selection. Firstly, any philosophy of action requires these three values because, quite simply, without survival there is no life. A society or an individual who does not seek to survive will not live, and therefore, in the eyes of history and nature, they are irrelevant. Secondly, without descendants, a people or a culture ceases to exist beyond one generation. Again, in the long run they become irrelevant. And lastly, without the drive to thrive, to progress, to grow, to compete, to defeat or integrate rivals, to advance in knowledge and capability, without these, a society will eventually be marginalized. A group that only aims for bare survival, with just enough children to replace themselves, will eventually be outnumbered and overtaken by societies that push to grow, innovate, and expand. This framework may sound reductionist and bare bones, and that's the point. It is not yet a complete philosophy of everything, but it's the foundation upon which any enduring philosophy and morality must rest. Without these values, existence is temporary and irrelevant, but with them we have a foundation upon which greater things can be built. Today, many people lack confidence in the value of life itself, or in the value of having children. But when we look at nature, at reality, at everything that it does, we see that all relevant life seeks to survive and to thrive. Those who do not follow these principles, whether individuals or species or societies, they die out. They become irrelevant. Most people, deep down, are still coded with these principles. Millions, even billions of years of genetic programming have embedded in us the desire to live, to reproduce, and to grow. Every animal seeks these things, every bacteria and every tree, because that is how nature shaped them. We are no different. Those who do not follow these principles will not last. They will be filtered out by time and by natural selection, and therefore, in moral and political discussions, perspectives that reject these core values should not be prioritized. They are not relevant to the long-term survival of humanity and will, in fact, hinder it. Of course, individuals who do not live by these values can still exist within society. They can be tolerated as long as they do not obstruct your and society's ability to survive, to have descendants, and to thrive. If their proposals can be reconciled with these principles, for example through an exchange that ultimately supports survival and thriving, or having descendants, then you can cooperate. But if someone seeks to directly obstruct or undermine these values, then they should be ignored, avoided, or if they attempt to impose destructive laws or conditions upon you, neutralized. Conflict should be avoided when possible, since it's risky, but if survival and descendants are threatened, it is fully justifiable to resist them by any means necessary. Now, these three values are not equal. There is a hierarchy. Having descendants comes first. Survival comes second, because you must survive in order to have descendants. Thriving comes third, as a way of securing and enriching the future for yourself and your descendants. If you prioritize personal survival over having descendants, your relevance ends in a single generation. Survival is therefore subordinate to reproduction, to have descendants, except in cases where you have no descendants yet, or at all, in which case survival serves as a means to either reach that stage or as a good unto itself if you cannot have descendants. Thriving, meanwhile, is both the enhancement of survival and descendants, and the gateway out of this reductionist framework into a fuller vision of human flourishing. Expanding the concept of thriving means that thriving can be understood narrowly as merely a tool to strengthen survival and descendants, or more broadly, as encompassing culture, science, wealth, health, and self-expression. In the narrow view, anything outside of survival and reproduction is morally neutral. For example, driving your car is not inherently moral or immoral. It doesn't necessarily serve survival or descendancy, but it also doesn't violate them either. In a broader view, however, activities can be understood as forms of play, growth, or preparation that indirectly strengthen survival and thriving. The point then is not simply to take three values and stop, but to establish a common foundation, one that's objective, observable, and universal. From here we can judge all other actions and policies. The moral test is simple. Does this act or policy violate my or our ability to survive or have descendants? If yes, it is immoral or even evil. If no, it's either morally neutral or good, depending on whether it actively supports survival, descendants, or thriving. Thus, existence itself is good. Nature, by simply existing, gives us three laws, and to live well is to follow them. With this framework in place, the next step is to apply these principles to the real-world situations, particularly to politics and governance, and to see how they can be applied and also how they might be expanded. Now, what is the relationship between the state and the individual? Why do we create states at all? What is their purpose? And how should these serve our fundamental values? That is the question we'll tackle next time.